Do you like games that feel like someone punched Doom into a VHS tape? Do you like dying? Do you like vibing while dying? Welcome to Mortal Sin, a chaotic, blood-soaked roguelike where skill is power and overconfidence is death. This is game 19 out of my 700 plus Steam library review project, and it's a trip. Stick around and I'll break down why the combat in Mortal Sin hits way harder than it has any right to, how the game's weird, over-the-top visuals actually help the experience, and whether it has enough content to keep you coming back. I was deep into my first run, swinging a slab of iron like your favorite black swordsman, way further than I should have been on my first time. Somewhere in the back of my mind I was already imagining the YouTube title, something like, I beat Mortal Sin first try, this game is pretty easy, and so on and so on. Then I just randomly died. No epic boss fight, no dramatic final stand, just a little bit of carelessness and then reset. What's worse, I didn't even get close to the same spot again for quite a while. This game will keep you on your toes with its high tempo and fast-paced mechanics. If you don't pay enough attention, you'll die pretty quickly. So let's get into how everything works. Game starts, you choose your class, get dropped in the main hub where you can get some lore from this nice lady, gamble away some money for items. I love gambling. And choose your stages. In a run you have to clear 3 stages, whose order you can choose, and then fight the final boss. That's it. In between each level there's perks and items you can get and other things that make your life easier or harder. Based on the order you clear stages, you will unlock different stuff. For example, a forest cave dungeon will give you different unlocks than dungeon cave forest. Additionally, there's a special challenge thing I haven't tried yet either. The gameplay and combat slap. Literally, every swing feels meaty, hits connect with a satisfying crunch, hats fly, limbs tumble, you get power-ups all the time, and if you time it right, you're not just fighting, you're performing violence at 120 BPM. This game reminds me of The Matrix when Neo fights like 100 Mr. Smiths, and they just keep coming. Once you mastered all the tools the game has to offer, it really is kind of like a flow state where you go from sliding around to parrying to comboing from group to group. This feels very good overall. Crisp, responsive, quick, and deep. There's also a left-click auto-combo system for old people like myself, and proper input-based combos that you can turn on if you're feeling sweaty. You can also turn off any other assistance the game offers for the true raw dog Mortal Sins experience. I messed around with a few classes, but on the run where I actually beat the game, I went Paladin. Mace, shield, and a strict policy of right-clicking anything that even looked at me funny. You have to utilize everything at your disposal, like dashes, invincibility, and parries to get ahead. I knew I wasn't very good with the manual combos, so I went for one of the easier classes and a simple game plan. Just focus on parrying everything, which worked pretty well surprisingly. There was some close calls, but all in all I managed to get to the last boss and finish him. I also tried other classes like the monk or mage, but after a couple of minutes I realized these classes were way more difficult. At this point I was heavily relying on auto combos, so they actually required some skills to operate. How do the visuals help sell the atmosphere? Well, one quick look will tell you that the whole game is chaotic visually. We're talking edge outlines, bloom turned to a million, CRT shaders and all of that stuff. But somehow it works. The crazy colors and contrasts make you feel like you're in a nightmare or hallucinating, which adds to the dark tone, creepy and sad atmosphere. The dev, who's apparently just one guy, recently added a realistic mode that tones it all down if you can't handle the deep fried look as much. Honestly, I did appreciate that option, cause it just makes everything more palatable. I will try playing more with the original visuals though, cause I think it's supposed to look like this. It's supposed to feel a little cursed. The atmosphere at all times is oppressive and gritty. You can clearly see some of the influences the dev drew upon. There's a multitude of references. The Struggler class, the Berserker class that starts with the Brand of Sacrifice, the God Hand, Monk combo, the Eclipse modifier, and probably a bunch more that I missed. This is his love letter to Miura, bless his soul, and it shows. Will this game actually keep you hooked? There's not that much variety in stages and enemies, and you will get most unlocks pretty quickly. After a while, you'll start seeing the limitations of this being a solo project. The rooms start feeling samey, the boss fights are okay, and unless you love experimenting with builds or perhaps speedrunning, you'll probably exhaust your possibilities after a couple dozen hours. But for that first chunk of time where you have no idea how anything works, it'll be a really nice experience, and that's worth something. So if you want to support an indie dev, enjoy dungeon crawlers, crisp combat, and creepy atmosphere, this is the game for you. But as I said, it's not gonna keep you for 100 hours, at least not if you're trying to play it all at once. It feels like the kind of game you return to every once in a while, like a horror movie you only watch in October. You throw in some music, you go kill some monsters, and yeah, that's it. It's not something to binge, but something to savor in doses, like drugs. It's still in early access and still being worked on, but the meat of the game is already finished according to the dev, so don't expect any gigantic changes. If you liked this week's review, consider liking, subscribing, and hitting that bell so you don't miss the next one. For questions, critiques, or just venting about your own runs, drop a comment or shoot me an email. I read them all. Also, I post new reviews every once in a while, slowly working through my Steam library. If you haven't seen it yet, my last video was on Half Sword, a medieval physics sim that's just as violent but way dumber in the best way possible. Good luck.